Welcome to Sports Out My Hero podcast. Hashtag DC Sports Without the Politics with Carol and Robbie on Trade Radio Network.
That's right. It's Monday night. Sports on the Hill podcast, True Radio Network, CP3 coming to you live from the lab, RobbieG live from the Man Cave, bringing you the best DC sports coverage around. It's DC sports, a lot of politics for a reason. We bring you the best knowledge and insight around. We got a Nats game live looking right now. It's unfortunately not a good look. Right now, it's a 9-0. The Nats are down. Top of the seventh, 2 men out, 1-1. The Nats pitching has been, we'll talk about that more in Nats talk, which we get into right after we begin the show. And we're doing things a little bit differently this week. And we want to go into the NBA playoffs. We got the NBA Roundtable live in the house early. So we're going to break down the conference finals. There's a game going live right now. And then we want to talk some NHL playoffs and some the second place Washington Mystics and some WNBA. But before we get into all of that, RobbieG, how you doing tonight, good sir?
Doing okay. It's a pleasure to be back with you. I had a great weekend of visiting family in Pennsylvania. I hope you had a good weekend as well, Carol. It's an interesting sports time indeed. Unfortunately, we don't have any Capitals to talk about. We broke that down last week. But there's still a lot of interesting playoffs, including the NHL playoffs that we'll get into, the NBA playoffs. As Carol said, we'll start off with some baseball talk with the Nats. I think we'll do that going forward as they're the team still remaining of our big four. And then we may switch it up after that these next couple of weeks. But for this week, we wanted to bring in our NBA roundtable a little early, give Brian Brennan a chance to join us for both baseball talk and basketball talk. Hopefully Tim will be able to join us for some of that NBA talk. This basketball game is kind of crazy. The Heat just scored there, but it made it 26-11. And so the Celtics started off on a crazy run in this game. So we'll break down that series and that game as well as the Western Conference one. We'll also talk a little bit of the Mystics, who had a pretty good week. We'll talk a little bit DC United as well. I also want to start off the thing just briefly talking about some potential Commanders news. Nothing has been confirmed yet, but Carol, want to let people know the quote unquote maybe possibly breaking news that of course has got everyone talking already.
Yes. Oh, there's a lot of wheels turning right now in different directions. For one, I know everyone's seen the reports that I mentioned it last night on At the Bar Radio. The alleged reports of the owners are getting into a position to possibly vote out Daniel Snyder from the franchise because of a lot of improprieties and some of the investigations that's been going on. And I don't really want to get into all the logistics and my point of view on this situation. If you do, tune in Sunday nights at the Bar Radio, because I always give my uncut critique on that show. I try to keep my personal opinions to myself when it comes to Sports on the Hill podcast. But I'll just say that if this does happen, it's a slippery slope for a lot of the other owners because the type of person that Daniel Snyder is and the amount of money that he has, if he gets voted out, he's going to go after each and every one of the owners that voted for him. And he's going to find dirt on them and he's going to present and he's going to make them lose their team also. And the owners know this. So I'll believe it when I see it that the owners voted out.
I agree. And the other news is the potential move where they'll become the Virginia Commanders. There's a lot of chat about that. I'll be honest. I mean, so nothing's been confirmed about that. They're looking at some land. There's also been some conflict of where the location of that land is. There's been just a bunch of different things reported. It looks like it's going to be pretty far south of DC, probably Woodbridge or Dumfries is what they're looking at right now. For some people, it'll make a big difference and won't go to the games as much anymore if they're from Maryland or DC potentially. Other people maybe in Northern Virginia are season ticket holders and they'll be closer for them. So maybe, there's a lot of Virginia fans that are Commanders fans or were once Redskins or Washington football team fans. And Maryland is a split state. There's a lot of Ravens fans in the state. So, you wonder if they're just moving to a state where they can just say, this whole state is ours, even if we're quote unquote the DC Commanders or Washington Commanders, whatever it is. But it's an interesting move for me because it probably pushes me out from going to games. Carroll told me off air that he still thinks he'll, maybe go to some games. It's just going to be too hard for me and my family to drive an hour each way to go to a game. And it's not that I, will not root for the team anymore or are angry and are just like fed up. But it's the realistic thing. It's like, am I going to drive 2 hours to watch a football game? And for some people they will, and for others they won't. And it's going to be interesting to see if this move happens and what the potential ramifications and how it potentially could shift the fan base. But Carol, what are some of your thoughts on it?
I mean, I don't like the idea of it being out in Virginia, but it's been in RFK Stadium in the city for decades. It's been in Maryland for decades, and if they want to move it to Virginia, the folks that commute from Virginia and deal with all the traffic to come out here to root for the team. If now they're switching it up, and no telling what the facility might be out there. I know dome has always been a key thing. They will want a dome stadium, in the area.
I'm just mad they couldn't get a deal done where they could demolish RFK and build that area up like they did with Capital One, in Chinatown all those years ago, and Nats Park in that area. I think they could do it again, build a bunch of restaurants and a bunch of other cool things in that area. It's metro accessible. Like, it's just frustrating to me that it's going to be that far away. It's just like, how are they DC anymore? I don't know. It's frustrating to me.
The thing is, DC owns those properties. The RFK is owned by the federal government.
But they wanted, they claimed to wanted to make a deal if they changed the name. They changed the name. So what's the problem? I don't know. It's just interesting for me.
I could get into all the different political things that's involved, but then that'll take us. That's another.
Yeah, that's a whole nother story. We're going to talk about that later in the summer.
A lot of underlying things that I don't really.
I'm hoping this is a push, like a leaked report to push DC to make a move on that site. That's my, thing that I'm hoping for. That now that hey, we're looking at this site, are you going to actually come and play or not?
You don't spend $100 million to try to make something happen somewhere else.
Well, I don't know if that actually. Just because there's a report of $100 million being spent doesn't mean it's been spent yet. So
it makes sense because a lot of stuff is going on out in that area. That's one of those higher income areas. So taxes they're looking at, the revenue that they'll be able to generate with the different guidelines in Virginia. Maryland state tax is 6%. Virginia is only 4.5%. So that might play a role in it for the franchise. That's a lot of money when you're talking about revenue. So there's a lot of other things that go in place.
And also a lot of other things might go there. Champ just said, I'd be down for a dome stadium if they could get WrestleMania there. Potentially you could maybe get a Super Bowl. Who knows? It's just I don't know if the infrastructure down there is to support a big event in the same way that if you were in DC, it could. But only time will tell. Maybe this will push Metro to get a station down there or a bus line or something to get more people down that way. I don't know. But it frustrated me as a fan. I hope that it's like not true and it was just rumor and that they could somehow find a way. But we'll see. When all the things are finalized. In business, nothing's final until the final contract is signed. So I don't necessarily believe in any of these rumors for all we know. So but
see how it plays out. Unfortunately, I had opportunity to get down to training camp / mini camp, I should say. On Thursday, I had access to get down there and actually watch some practice, but unfortunately haven't got all my sales for the month, so I can't take that day off. But stay tuned. I have a new insider with the team that I might be able to get more access than we've had before with the team and on this show.
Sounds good. All right. Well, I don't want to take up too much of Brian's time. I know that you always want to get into some baseball talk, but I did think that those were some important news stories that we should cover before we get into the baseball talk. But we can bring in Brian now, and I'll let you guys talk a little bit of baseball while I will actually jump off screen for a little bit, and then I'll join Brian and Tim for some NBA talk in just a few minutes. But welcome on in, Brian, and I hope that you guys have a great baseball segment.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on.
What's going on, Brian? Yeah, the Nats aren't looking too good. It's now 10-0 in the bottom of the seventh, one out, and Soto at the plate. He's 0 for 2 for the night. As I mentioned, they just got their first hit in the bottom of the sixth, and that's never a good sign. And the Dodgers are being the Dodgers right now. I really, dislike the Dodgers. And when I first turned the game on, I got to witness Trey Turner hit a 2-run RBI single. So, yeah, just to throw salt in the wound. I might be end up watching NBA within the next, probably during this segment if the Dodgers score again. But, Brian, how are you doing tonight? Yeah, that's pretty much how my night is going so
far. I'm doing well. Busy day for me, but I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be here talking about baseball, even though the Nats aren't great. Always good to be on with you guys. Hoping the Yankees can come back against Tim's Orioles tonight. We'll see how that goes. How are you doing, man? How are you doing, CP3?
Maintaining, man. It's been a long weekend. Weekends are busy doing shows and watching games. And at least Juan Soto just got a hit, so he's on with a single.
That's 2 hits now, right?
Well, it's 3 hits now. They actually got a second hit.
3. Wow.
But then they hit into a double play and into the inning. So
of course.
So it wasn't too much to really, go into, but yeah, that's pretty much how the Nats season has been going so far. And we'll talk about that after we recap the game. Just a couple of things that transpired over this last week that hopefully will work in the Nats' favor. Unfortunately, it's not working in this game, but we'll talk about that more. There was another for the 4th consecutive week, 2-4 week for the Nationals. They're now sitting at 14-28. Looks like they'll be 14-29 by the end of tonight. But that'll be next week's show. They lost 2 out of 3 to Miami again after getting swept at home the last time they played the Marlins. So this is starting to get a little frustrating because we're used to the Marlins being on the bottom of the division and we just, dominating them now. She was on the other foot. And it really pretty much sucks. But you have to rebuild. They won in 2019 by trading away some of their pieces in the farm system. So now, after last year, letting go some of the featured talent on the squad, now they're rebuilding. Now you have younger players that's on the field, getting experience and developing. The main issue that I've seen this year is our pitching and errors, bad plays in the field. And that kind of killed this last 6 games that they played, why they only won 1 game out of each series because, they haven't been clicking on all phases of the game. One day their defense is, looking good, but then they don't have any offense. So then they're getting solid pitching, but then they can't, get any runs. And then they're giving up errors on top of, the pitcher not getting any run support. So it's kind of frustrating. I get it, but it's still early. Can always turn around. So what happened in 2019? So that was just my pep talk for the Nats fans just watching. I know it's hard, especially talking during the 10-0 game, but got to think back to the good times, man. Just remember the parade in 2019. That's all I can say right now.
If I remember correctly, I just want to say, I think I saw this on Twitter today. I believe today is the anniversary of the 2019 Nats being 19-31. I could be wrong, but I think I saw that on Twitter somewhere. So, hey, if you want some optimism, there you go.
I tried to give it, but a lot of folks didn't want to hear it. I was trying to be optimistic, but they don't want to hear it. But I tried. Yeah. Because that season, we also said, I know we say it all the time. Well, I say it a majority of the time, that there's a chance to turn it around, that it's still early. And they made that turn. And it was one acquisition that I point to was Gerardo Parra. He got acquired. After the game, the day of one, he said, yeah, we're going to make the playoffs, even sitting at 19-31. And it's just something that can spark it and get things going in your way, in your favor. And the momentum builds, the team starts playing together and starts, not making errors, and the pitchers start pitching better, and the bullpen starts, locking it down like they were in the beginning of the season. So it's a long season. I'm not saying they're going to go on the playoff run and, go to the World Series, but a lot of baseball left, and, a couple of things change, a couple of players get called up. Still haven't seen Strasburg, still haven't seen Joe Ross. And, you got a lot of young players that's, trying to find their way. And, yeah, it's rough to watch, but we've been there before, people. We've been there. I don't want to go back to a 100-loss season, but it is what it is right now. And let's go ahead and recap this 2 and 4 week so we can get it over with, because it's kind of sad. First game of the series versus the Marlins was an 8-2 loss. Sandy Alcantara earned his third victory. That put him at 3-2. He went 8 innings, giving 3 hits, 1 earned run, 5 strikeouts, and 1 walk. Aaron Sanchez took the loss. That dropped him to 2-3. He went 3 2/3, giving up 8 hits, 4 runs, and 2 strikeouts and 2 walks. The top of the first, Yadier Hernandez got an RBI single. In the top of the fourth, Lane Thomas had an RBI single also. Alcantara just is filthy. He has the Nats number. They can't get anything against this dude so far this year. He pitched, I believe, in the 8th, deep into the 8th inning on both appearances he had against the Nats, and they can't score on him. They can barely hit him. They only had 3 hits in this game, and his issue is control. Sometimes he, gives up walks. This game he didn't. He only gave up 1. So, yeah, that was a bad way to start the series. The second game of the series was a 5-1 loss. Anthony Bender earned the victory for the Marlins, his first of the season. That put him at 1-3. He went 1 inning, giving up 2 hits, no runs, with 1 strikeout and no walks. Joan Andone took the loss. This dude, he's trying to find his way. Right now, he's hit or miss big time. And right now, he's missing a lot. He's 1-7. He ended up going 4 2/3 with 5 hits, 1 earned run with 2 strikeouts and no walks. Top of the 8th, Josh Bell had a sacrifice fly to account for the lone run for the Nats. And the last game of the series, the Nats trying to salvage and not get swept. They won 5-4 in 10 innings. Tanner Rainey earned the victory. That put him at 1-1. He went 1 inning, giving 1 hit, 1 earned run, 1 strikeout, and 2 walks. Daniel Castano. That's what it's going to be tonight. He took the loss. That dropped him to 0-1. He went 2 innings, giving up 1 hit, 1 run, not earned, no strikeouts, and no walks. And Victor Ivano earned his first save of the season, going 1 inning, giving up no hits, no runs, and no strikeouts, and no walks. Top of the first, Christian Hernandez scored on a wild pitch with Josh Bell at the plate. Top of the second, Escobar had an RBI double. Christian Hernandez had an RBI double also at the top of the second. Top of the 8th, Lane Thomas was hit by a pitch with the bases loaded, which led to a run coming in. And Ruiz had an RBI double at the top of the 10th to have the game-winning hit to salvage this 3-game set with 1 victory. And yeah, it was pretty ugly. There was a inside the park home run by the Marlins star Chisholm. The Nats almost had an inside the park home run by Lane Thomas, but he got through out at the plate. And then as you watch the video before the show, the Nats pulled off a triple play, which was the lone bright spot for the series besides, the win. Triple play at a crucial time of the game. So that was the lone bright spot of it, but losing to the Marlins, again in the series is not a good look. They got to do better, play better, and stop committing these errors. And the pitching, we all know what needs to be done in the pitching, so there's really nothing much more to this. Brian, what was your synopsis of this series loss to the Marlins once again?
Yeah, I feel like we talk about Alcantara pretty much every time the Nats play the Marlins. He just owns them. He's one of the best young pitchers, I feel, that doesn't get talked about, at least in this game. He's really good. And then again, you mentioned Adon. It's almost hard to choose who's worse right now on the Nats between Adon and Patrick Corbin. They're both so bad. They've both been terrible.
They both had
this
7
season.
losses.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. They've both to have 2 pitchers to both be that bad. It's pretty remarkable, honestly. And yeah, you mentioned it. The Nats used to have the Marlins number. It felt like, you go back to all the years when the Nats were competitive and a team that was fighting for the playoffs every year. You felt like they always had a good track record of beating the Florida/Miami Marlins, but it doesn't seem to be the case anymore. I think Miami's a team. You mentioned Jazz Chisholm hitting the inside the park home run. He's a really exciting young player. I really like Jazz Chisholm a lot. I think he could be good for the game. They're an exciting team. I think they can make some noise in the NL East. I still think the Mets are probably going to win the division, but I think the Marlins can make some noise, especially with an expanded playoff potentially. And as far as the 1 win goes, you got to give it up for Ruiz, the young catcher, Keibert Ruiz. He got on base 5 times in that game, and like you said, he had the game-winning hit. He is definitely, I think, you might not see it at times, but I think he's definitely going to end up being a bright spot for this team. I think the Nationals actually do have a good, solid amount of depth at the catcher position, and he's right up there among the best. So in their system, at least. So yeah, great game for Ruiz, probably the best game of his career. But yeah, Marlins, they're doing well against the Nats so far this year.
Yeah, definitely. We've seen them, struggle for a while, trying to get out the bottom of the division. They're still in 4th place, but they're not in the bottom because the Nats are. And before I go down and break down the Milwaukee season, now, Brian, remember when I told you after Atlanta had won the World Series and Freddie Freeman had, finally left the Braves because he's terrorized the Nats for so many years.
Did he just do something against the Nats?
Yes, he did.
Of course he did.
Yes, the Nats were trying to salvage some, they had the bases loaded with 2 outs, man at the plate, 1-1. He hits a rope to the first base side, and guess who snags it? That would have probably been a base clearing double to give the Nats 3 runs. Guess who snagged it at first base?
Who was it?
Freddie freaking Freeman.
Of course.
That dude just terrorizes the Nats no matter where he is. What's this dude?
He's just a beast, like Freddie Freeman.
I know, man. I'm just tired of him always doing something against the Nats. I don't know how you do it, Brian. You've been a baseball guy longer than me. When these players for the other teams are still find a way to beat your team, man.
Usually it's the other with my team, Carol. Usually it's the other way around. Usually players from other teams come to my team, so it's usually the other way around. So I'm kind of used to it the other way.
Well, I'm not going to get into the luxury tax and the things that you're have been able to do that other franchises have. That's a whole nother show in itself.
Yeah.
Also. Yeah. Let's get into this Milwaukee Brewers series, which the Nats also found a way to lose 1 out of 3. The first game, not too much to talk about because it was a 7-0 loss, kind of similar to the 10-0 that they're down right now in the first game of the Dodgers series. So kind of ironic we're talking about that at the same time. Let's see. I think that's Eric. We're going to go with Eric because I can't read the last name. That's my bad. I was kind of writing in the rush today. Eric earned the victory for the Brewers. That put him at 4-1. He went 7 innings, given 5 hits, no runs, 5 strikeouts, and no walks. And Eric Fetty took the loss for the Nats. That drops him to 2-3. He went 5 2/3, giving up 4 hits, 2 runs with 4 strikeouts and 3 walks. That's kind of his issue whenever he gets in trouble. It's because of control. He loses sometimes. His mechanics, or I don't know what it is, but when he gives up walks, and normally a home run follows. And as I said, the first game was a 7-0 loss, so there really were no offensive highlights to even speak of. Second game of the series, similar to the second game of the Miami series, was a 5-1 loss by the Nets. Patrick Corbin earned his 7th loss of the season. He went 5 innings, giving up 8 hits, 5 runs, 3 strikeouts, and 1 walk. Brayton Woodruff earned the victory for the Brewers. That put him at 5-2. He went 6 innings, giving up 5 hits, 1 run, 6 strikeouts, and no walks. And Josh Hader, earned his 15th save of the season, going 1/3 of the inning, giving up no hits, no runs, no strikeouts or walks. The top of the third, Lane Thomas had a solo home run to account for the lone run for the Nationals, and the game to salvage once again to try to at least get one victory out of this series without getting swept. And the Nets were managed to win 8-2 with the shift in the lineup. I mentioned my concerns about having Juan Soto in the 2-hole, one never being in that position before, and I don't really see that as an advantageous position for him, even though you have the likes of Josh Bell, who's been pretty consistent this season, and Nelson Cruz, who has, even though he has I think around 20 RBIs, he hasn't been consistent at the plate. So they haven't been able to protect Soto, and he hasn't been able to, really get going because there's no one been on base in front of him. He has 8 home runs and 7 of those are solo. So they moved him to the 3 spot, and Hernandez was still leading off. And I forgot who they put in the 2-hole. But long story short, offense came alive. And so they scored 1 run and got shut out in the first 2 games and put up 8 runs in the 3rd game. And in that game, Aaron Sanchez earned his 3rd victory of the season, which puts him at 500. He's now 3-3. He went 5 innings, giving up 7 hits, 2 runs, 1 strikeout, and 2 walks. Freddie Peralta dropped to 3-2. He went 3 innings, giving up 6 hits, 5 runs, 2 strikeouts, and 1 walk. Top of the 2nd, Lane Thomas had an RBI double. Top of the 3rd, Nelson Cruz had an RBI single. Top of the 4th, the Nets blew it open. Lane Thomas had an RBI double. D. Gordon had an RBI single. Christian Hernandez had an RBI single. Luis had an RBI double. And Juan Soto, who had 1 for 3 this game, had a 2-run RBI single to cap things off and make it 8-2. And the Nets, held on to win that game. We've seen the bullpen, pitching falter and, give up leads before, but they held on to the lead and was able to salvage their 2nd win of the week against the Central League Brewers. So at least they got a victory against a top team, like 2, but 1 is better than none. They could have went 1-5 instead of 2-4. But it was good to see them, get some offense together and get some solid pitching. They're not playing catch up throughout the whole game and giving up early runs, runs in the early innings and trying to play catch up. And like I said, it's a frustrating series, frustrating season, but I'm a fan. What am I going to do? Not root for my team? It is what it is. Brian, so what did you take away from this series against the Brewers, who I didn't realize how good they were? And I forgot they had that damn Yelich. He was in Miami and terrorized us there. And then popped up in Milwaukee. I think he had a triple when I first looked up. I was like, damn it, this dude is just too good.
Yeah, Yelich is still a beast. He's having a nice bounce back season this year. He had a couple down years, but he's having a good bounce back season. I do want to go back to the Friday night game because even though the Nats did lose 7-0, they did turn a triple play in this game, which is interesting. They got blown out. I mean, the score, I think at the time when they turned the triple play was, I think it was 2-0. The Brewers were leading. And I think it was a 5-4-3 triple play around the horn. It was very nicely turned by the Nats. I don't know when the last time the Nats had turned a triple play before this was, but you do not see that every day, especially in a game where you end up losing pretty badly like they did in this game. But that was neat to see for sure. And like you mentioned the fielding issues at the start of this, the fielding issues of the team. So that was definitely a nice moment in the series. But yeah, the Brewers are a really good team. They're having a great season so far. They might end up going wire to wire in the NL Central this year, and winning the division title again. Good for the Nats to salvage the last game of the series, scoring 6 runs in the 4th inning. I think you're right. The lineup shakeup, probably a good thing, honestly. I think Soto's clear. I mean, he's like the best hitter on this team, one of the best hitters in the league. So I think you need to get him in a position where he can drive some people in. So I think anywhere you can switch the lineup up is good. Josh Bell has been great all season. I said the last time I was on, I think it was on 2 weeks ago. I think Josh Bell should be an all-star this year in the NL if he keeps playing the way he does. So anyway, to switch the lineup up and get Soto in a position to drive more people in is good. And you obviously hope that winning that last game against Milwaukee would create some momentum, but obviously, not quite tonight playing the Dodgers.
Yeah, it was actually 2016 was the last time the Nats turned a triple play. It was
6 years.
Yeah, it was Zimmerman. I actually had it in the video. I actually did the flashback to the 2016 triple play that they turned. Zimmerman was 2-man on. Zimmerman was on covering first, line straight to him. Man was off the base, and he tagged first, and there was a guy on third that took off a home. He threw the Rendon triple play, 5-3.
Nice.
So yeah, it's definitely like I said, the bright spot of the week. Something good to look at, especially amidst all the fielding errors that they've had. But like I said, it's still frustrating to go through this run. And speaking of Juan Soto, like I said, I've been in a couple of the Nats groups. Do you believe that there are a couple of folks talking about he's washed up?
He's washed up. What?
Washed, Brian. Someone actually put up.
Isn't he 23 years old? How can he be washed up at 23?
He's washed up.
What? Are these those same Commander Karens you've been hanging out with? Like, who are these people?
Man. These are national Nancy's, man.
I like it. There, go with that.
Yeah, national Nancy's, man. They were in because I dropped it. Like I said, I made their triple play video, so I put it in a couple of the groups, and they were commenting. Some of them were sarcastic, and then next thing I know, I started scrolling through some of the posts, and one guy actually took the time to say that Juan Soto was washed up.
I mean, it's pretty hard to be washed up when you're 23 or whatever, 22, 23, however old Juan Soto is. He's got one of the brightest futures in all the sport. Like, he's one of the best players in this league. He's not washed up. Maybe there's something to be said. I think what you said earlier about maybe the Nats aren't really putting him in a position to drive in a ton of runs, because what did you say? It was 8 home runs and 7 of them were solo. Yeah, that's you got to get your guys in position to drive runs in, the big bats in your lineup, and I think there's something to be said for that. But no, Juan Soto's not washed up at all.
I just wanted to let you know with some of these folks.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah, so when you go through your frustration with the Yankees, just think about that. They're thinking that Juan Soto's washed up. At least my fan base isn't that bad.
I mean, I don't want to comment on some Yankee fans, but
yeah. So so that was the week that was. Upcoming schedule. We're currently in the 3-game series with the Dodgers, so they're currently down 10-0 in the bottom of the 9th. No outs, no man on with a 1-2 count. Hernandez at the plate. They also have a game tomorrow night at 7:00. And Wednesday at 4. Then they have Colorado coming into town for a 4-game series. Thursday, there'll be a 7 o'clock start. Friday, 7 o'clock start. Saturday, 4 o'clock start. And Sunday, a 1:35 start. So this week we'll have 7 Nats games this week. So hopefully they can at least maybe go 3-4 instead of 2-4. We can break this 2-4 streak for the 4th week in a row. But Robbie, I know you haven't watched much baseball. Did you get to see any of these games we talked about? Did you at least see the triple play video that I put out there to see?
I did watch the video that you made. That is all
Yeah,
of
that was
the,
all
all
you
of the all of the Nationals I've seen this week, which from what I've now listened to, because I listened to that entire segment, it seems to be the bright spot of the entire week. So I'm pretty happy.
Shutout.
So yeah, so that's good. I've been eating some dinner and enjoying your guys' conversation and watching this Boston team up 55-28. Also, this is a pretty tight game in the battle for Florida. Right now, Tampa Bay is up 1-0. So that's pretty crazy. And they are now on the power play, actually, with 8:34 left in the third period. So we'll talk about all of that as well. But yeah, I did not watch any of the baseball. I'm sorry. But I am excited to talk about other sports.
All right. Well, I'm about to bow out, let you guys talk about. I saw Tim had just jumped on. So I'm about to go ahead and let you guys talk about some NBA as you had that nice segue. And I'm going to go partake of some more adult beverages and get ready to talk some Mystics when you guys come out of the NBA talk.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Let me see if I can get this screen share to work here. It's always slightly finicky, potentially, depending on the day. Let's see, just like today. Let's why isn't this go away? Let's see. There we go. I fixed it. All right. So all right, we're doing one more little mini adjustment on the fly to make us reasonably sized. So Tim, how are you doing tonight?
Doing great. Excited to join. Talk some NBA. It's been a crazy playoffs, and glad to discuss a little bit with you.
Yeah, I'm excited that we have Brian back on this segment. Tim is back. Arun is taking the week off. That's one of the benefits of having like the roundtable format that I always want to break it down with 2 or 3 of you. It can rotate each week. Ken's actually in chat right now. I want to thank him for moderating Twitch chat. It's got a lot of great people in that chat as well. Champ just gave a gift sub. I appreciate that to Peter, the modding mod, who's a mod of a million channels. I really appreciate that. Also earlier, Andy also resubbed. So I appreciate both of those subs tonight over on Twitch, and all the people join us in all the different mediums, whether it be on Facebook, Carol's, YouTube, SportsOTHP.com has all the different ways you could be listening to the show tonight, including the podcast tomorrow morning. But I'm excited to have Tim and Brian back on. We're going to talk a little bit of NBA playoffs right now. Again, we're in the waning seconds of the first half. We'll keep it here live. There, Boston is up 55-33, and Boston has the ball, and they're looking to make a play. There's 7 seconds left on the shot clock, but there is a foul. So I believe that is they're in the bonus, so they'll be shooting for that one. But I'll get your guys' quick initial thoughts of the first half here. Tim, it was a real big blowout to start this game, and it seems to have kind of continued throughout this first half.
Yeah, this series and the playoffs in general have had a lot of blowouts, especially just crazy first half mismatches. And this is like the last game. I mean, although game 3 ended up being close at the end, just the first half, one team completely outplayed the other. And it was shocking how badly Miami played on offense in the first quarter. They were stuck on 1 point until very deep in the first quarter, and didn't really hit their first shot until really late. So they didn't come to, ready to play, but I do think they have a run in them. So hopefully it's not another blowout, and it ends up being a decent game in the end.
Yeah, so the Heat won the first game. The Celtics then won the next two games, and they are currently, again, leading 57 to 33 live with 23 seconds left. And Boston has the ball again, 14 on the shot clock. So, yeah, it was interesting that it started off well for the Heat, and I thought it was going to be a really close, tight series. I actually thought that maybe the Heat winning game one would mean a whole lot, but the fact that the Celtics came back and just dominated game two, Brian, talk about how that kind of changed how this series has gone so far.
Yeah, I think an important storyline to keep track of here, and something that's kind of hard to keep track of with the series, is there have been a lot of players coming in and out for both teams in this series. And in the first game of this series, the Celtics didn't have Al Horford, and they didn't have Marcus Smart, the Defensive Player of the Year. Horford was in the COVID protocol. Smart got hurt in Game 7 against the Bucks, and you could tell they were really missing both of those two guys in Game 1. And to get them back for Game 2 was a huge lift. I think to get them both back was really huge for the Celtics team, and they really dominated Game 2. Tatum had a huge game. Smart in his return clearly wasn't affected too much. He had 24 points in Game 2. It was really a dominating effort. And like Tim said, there really have not been a ton of like really close competitive moments in this series. It feels like it's a blowout like all the time in this series. I mean, just look at this game tonight. It feels like there's very few like close tense moments. But I think, like I said, something to keep track of is all the people coming in and out for both teams. Because like I said, Horford, Smart were out in Game 1. Rob Williams was out for the Celtics in Game 3. Jimmy Butler went out in Game 3 for the Heat. Tyler Hero is out tonight in Game 4 for the Heat, and you can tell they clearly miss him in this game. So, yeah, just something to keep track of in this series.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll definitely be talking about this series next week. It'll be interesting to see how this game goes. I mean, it's looking very much, I mean, it just went to halftime, 57 to 33, as you can see on the screen here. But just a really kind of a dominating performance in the first half, both offensively and defensively, with Tatum going off for 24 points, 8 rebounds, and 3 assists. Right now, the Heat, Oladipo is trying to keep them in it, but it's just they're not putting up a whole lot, especially early on. It was brutal. Game 5 is going to be on Wednesday. That's an 8:30 start time. And that game will be I think, is it on TNT or is it?
No, it's ESPN.
It is on ESPN. Okay. And so here, I'm just trying to pull up the rest of the schedule here. Game 6 will be Friday at 8:30 in Boston, and Game 7, if necessary, will be Sunday. But it'll be interesting to see if the Celtics win this game, they just ride that momentum in, or if at least, the Heat can push them to a Game 6 back here. I'd be surprised if the Heat come back in this game, but we've seen crazier things happen. Tim, what are your thoughts on this series as it moves forward?
I think this series is probably going to go 7. I could see, the next couple games going back and forth, but these teams are really evenly matched, especially with, like Brian was saying, a few injuries on both sides. I do think, though, that even with Game 7 in Miami, if the Celtics come back healthy for that, they should probably win. Because Game 2 just showed when they're healthy, they probably are the best team. But I'm clearly this is the best series of the two, and fairly evenly matched teams. I think one thing, despite Boston having a deeper, better team, probably more scoring, Miami has a great coach and a lot of depth, so you can't really count them out. But I definitely predict a 7-game series in this one.
Interesting. Brian, do you see it going the same way, or do you think that if the Celtics roll in this game, they might just roll straight through and win it in 5?
Well, first off, I think Robbie, the Heat actually lead the series 2-1, not the Celtics.
Oh,
so, yeah,
right. I'm sorry, I didn't see that this game was 109-103. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway,
yeah. Well, that is a huge difference. So thank you for pointing that out. Yeah.
No problem. It's all good. Anyway. I do see this series going 7, honestly. I think these are two very evenly matched teams. I actually think that when it comes to the depth, I would say that they're actually pretty comparable when it comes to depth. I wouldn't say Boston's necessarily got more or greater depth than the Heat do, because this is a very deep Heat team. I know Tyler Hero's out tonight for the Heat, but he was the sixth man of the year in the NBA, and he leads a very good second unit for this Miami team. So I think there's a lot of – I would like to see more close games in this series, honestly. The game 3 was honestly the Heat dominated the first half. The Celtics were able to get it close towards the end, but I would really like a from start to finish competitive game in this series, and hopefully we get that. I think the Celtics are probably going to cruise the rest of the way tonight on their home floor. I would hopefully in Game 5 we can get that close competitive game that we've been craving for in the series, honestly.
Yeah, it's interesting. I didn't get to watch Saturday's game because I was out with family, but I thought when I saw the box score earlier, because Brown had 40 and Al Horford had 20, I thought they had won the game. I didn't realize that they had done that in a loss. That's the part that I totally missed. But yeah, that's interesting that it was sort of like more even scoring. I mean, Bam had a good game, but it was just sort of contributions from across the lineup for the Heat for them to be successful.
I think I want to point out that Bam in Game 3, Rob Williams, the Celtics center, he's on the all-defense team this year. He was out for that game. Like I said, a lot of players have been coming in and out for both teams in this series. So that's why I think Bam was able to feast. There's a big difference between when Rob Williams is in the lineup for the Celtics as opposed to Daniel Tice. Daniel Tice is just not as good as Robert Williams is. So Adebayo was pretty much able to feast on him in that game. I was a little surprised when Jimmy Butler went out. He did not look hurt. He played pretty much the entire first half and looked fine. And when they announced that he was out for the rest of the game at the start of the second half, I was pretty shocked. I think a lot of people were. And that definitely played a role, I think, in the Celtics comeback, that Jimmy was out for the second half. They were able to kind of fight their way back in this game. But, yeah, a great performance by Bam in Game 3 for sure.
Interesting. All right. Well, this is an interesting series. Now that I realize this is going to make it 2-2. You're right. I do think it'll go 7 now. And I'm excited to see how it goes. I hope the Celtics win just because Carly's my mod and I'm good friends with her. And I really don't have much. I hate the Heat just because they're like a kind of a division rival of the Wizards, and there's a history there. But I didn't like them buying a championship with all those 3 guys going together. So I've never really liked the Heat. So I'm not like the biggest Boston sports fan, as we all know on this podcast, but between those 2 teams, I'll definitely take Boston. Brian, do you have any rooting interest? Are you interested in any one of the 2 winning, or how do you feel about that?
No, I honestly hate both these teams as a Knicks fan.
I figured you would as a Knicks fan. That's why I was like, how do you even – but you still watch it and enjoy the games even though you can't root for either.
I will say I rooted for the Celtics in the first round. I mean, that's because they were playing the Nets, and I hate the Nets even more than the Celtics and the Heat. So, I mean, that's what – and when it comes to this series, I don't really necessarily lean one way or the other, honestly. I don't really like either of these teams. I guess if I had to say, because, I mean, let's be honest, it's looking like Golden State's going to win the West. If I had to say which finals matchup I would like to see more, I honestly think the Celtics would be a more fun and better matchup than the Heat. But what Tim said about the Heat is right. They have a great coach. Eric Spoelstra, I think, is one of the most underrated coaches in the history of the NBA. They always talk about how, that team had LeBron and Wade and Bosh, but, I mean, he was the coach of those teams. I mean, and he's been the coach of the Heat for so long. I think he's an X factor. Not that Ime Udoka of the Celtics is a bad head coach, but Spo's experience and all that, I think, could play a role the rest of the way in the series.
Yeah, I'm going to break in with some other sports interesting news. So we're in the final minute of the third period of a potential sweep going on. Hockey. And so Tampa Bay Lightning just missed an empty net, which would ice it. So it's 1-0 Tampa Bay over Florida, 45 seconds left. It's an empty net for Florida. They have to score here to get it to go to overtime to extend the series. And they're keeping it in the 36 seconds left. They're clogging up the neutral, a shot. And what a save by the defender right on the goal line, because the goalie was up on the crease. They shoot it down the ice, and it's icing with 22.1 seconds left. I'll let people know how the ending of that. It's just kind of exciting because that'll be one of our segments coming up. And they awarded it a goal. Interesting. I guess they might have sort of tripped a guy on the way down there. Anyway, I'll see the replay, but Tampa Bay goes up 2-0 and probably sweeps that series. We'll talk more about that in the hockey segment. So Vasilevsky made some great saves down low to keep it a 1-0 game, and then down the other way. What a block up front, but it still bounces around, almost goes in. A defender stays on that line and make sure it doesn't go out. They shoot it down the ice. And it wasn't icing because I see it now. I thought it was Florida's guy that got to it first. There was just a Tampa guy who was cherry picking, and he just scored, and Tampa Bay is going to win this series, and so it's going to be an interesting sweep against a team that beat, unfortunately, the Capitals. So it doesn't seem like that team went very far. In fact, they won no more games after knocking the Capitals out. So that's an interesting storyline for sure that I'll ask Carol about in a few minutes. Any final thoughts, Tim, on this current series that we're watching between the Heat and the Celtics before we go to the West Coast?
No, I just agree with Brian. I want a good game. It's very frustrating as a fan because this series is close, but like the games are not very compelling until the end of a couple of them.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's go into the other series right now, which hasn't been a very close series so far. The Warriors won the first game in kind of a blowout fashion. The second game was a little bit closer, and the third game was about the same. And they take a 3-0 lead tomorrow at 9:00. The Warriors, the game will be in Dallas. We'll see if Dallas can extend the series. I'll start off with you, Brian. What are your thoughts on the series so far?
The first game, like you said, was a blowout. That kind of set the tone, I thought, for pretty much the rest of the series. Golden State put the hammer down in that first game and really dominated. The second game was Dallas actually led the second game for a lot of it. They had a really good lead in the first half, but Golden State just kept inching like a little bit closer and a little bit closer. And like, you kind of got the sense that this Golden State team's just not going to be denied. And they had a really strong, I'm just looking at the stats right now for that game too. It was game two. They had a really strong fourth quarter. They had 43 points. And Luka Doncic has been amazing this series, but and he's been amazing all postseason. He's been amazing his whole NBA career. But like this Golden State team, they just look like they're on a mission. It's like they have a new hero every night. Like if it's not Steph Curry or Thompson or Draymond, it's Kevin Looney or Jordan Poole stepping up. It's like a new hero every night for Golden State. And then as far as the game last night goes, yeah, it was close. Dallas definitely had a chance on their home floor at the end, but I have to point out this from the box score. I think this is a big reason that Dallas lost. A former Knick, one of my favorite players from the Knicks of the last recent years, Reggie Bullock, had probably the worst game of his entire NBA career in this one. He was 0 of 10 from the field and 0 of 7 from three. It's hard to be much worse than that. And Dallas lost this game by 9 points. If he makes just 3 of his baskets, I mean, it's a huge difference in this game. So Bullock really did not step up. And like I said, Doncic has been amazing, but his supporting cast outside of Brunson, who I think's played himself into a nice contract this offseason, has been really hit or miss at times this postseason for Dallas. And they're just getting overmatched by what at the end of the day is just a much better, much more experienced. And I mean, they're going to go to the finals again, much better team than Golden State Warriors.
Yeah. Tim, what are some of your thoughts on the series?
I think one of the factors, it's not necessarily a big talent gap in this series because a lot of people thought Dallas could compete. It's just they don't have experience going deep into the playoffs. Even Luka in game 2 made some mistakes down the stretch. And I think a more experienced team would have definitely won game 2 because, yes, their lead was early, but they really just could not piss that away and win a championship. And I think maybe they will get to a point eventually where they will be winning championships and winning series like this because they do have a lot of talent, and Luka might be like potentially a top 10 player of all time, when all is said and done, but they're not there. Kerr is a better coach. And one thing that people don't talk about a ton, but it's key, is with players like Looney and Draymond, the Warriors have had a big advantage inside and rebounding, and they've gotten a lot of offensive rebounds. And that was really key in game 3, especially. So just one of Dallas's, they play a ton of guards and they like to space the floor and have 5 shooters, but they also have had a big disadvantage inside. So that's kind of really hurt them, I think. And just the coaching too has been a mismatch, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. One little scoring update. The Blues have scored the first goal against Colorado in that series. Colorado leads 2-1. So it's important. This game is in St. Louis. They scored in the first 5 minutes of this game, and an exciting one. And the second half has just started in this game. Boston is up 59-33 in that live game. So I know that Carly is happy with that. It's going to be interesting to see where this goes next week. I'm hoping that we're doing a show next week. I still have to talk to Carol. I know that it's Memorial Day weekend. People might be busy. So schedules some years we do have one and some we don't. So I'll have to talk to him about that. But I know at least in future weeks when we do get back together, it'll be interesting to see how this round finishes up, as well as the teams that make it to the NBA Finals. Because for me, I think the Golden State Warriors are going to probably do a gentleman's sweep and win this in 5. I think Dallas might win the next one. Brian, what are your thoughts? Do you think it's going to be a sweep, or you think they might get 1?
Yeah, I think it's either going to be a sweep or a gentleman's sweep. Dallas might not want to have their season end on their home floor like this, but Golden State's clearly the better team. This series hasn't been close. It makes me wonder. I know they got embarrassed. I wasn't on the show last week, so I didn't get a chance to talk about this, but Dallas really embarrassed Phoenix on their home floor in game 7. And I wonder if Phoenix had won that game, would we have had a better series than this? I mean, Dallas really stepped up in that game 7 and moved on, and probably the best performance you'll ever see from them. But I wonder if Phoenix had won that game, would we have had a better series in the Western Conference Finals, a more evenly matched series than this? Because, Phoenix was in the finals last year. They were the number 1 seed. They were the best team in the NBA all year. So I wonder if that would have been a better matchup than this. But I see this ending either tomorrow in 4 or the gentleman's sweep.
Tim, what do you say?
Yeah, I agree, because I think also Dallas has a lot of pride. They had a great crowd last game, so they might want to win 1. But I think Golden State learned their lesson last series because they let Memphis blow them out in a winnable series-ending game. So I don't think it would go past 5, definitely. And I also agree with Brian. I think Phoenix would have potentially even beaten Golden State. It's just people forgot how good they were because they were so awful in game 7. People like to kind of trash them, but they would have definitely competed a lot better than Dallas. And this series is a dud. It's kind of a disappointment. I just don't think it's going to be competitive no matter what. So,
yeah, for sure. All right. Well, I think we're able to break these down right now. The score is Boston 61, Miami 35. I'll do scoring updates throughout the evening in that. Tim, any final thoughts before we let you go? Thank you for joining us.
Oh yeah, no problem. No, I mean, just great show. I'm glad we could talk about the NBA. Hopefully we can talk about the finals maybe after the holiday. And yeah, have a good rest of the show too.
Yeah, sounds good.
Have a good night.
Yeah, thank you. All right, and Brian, I did want to talk real quickly some DC United talk this time. I did not remember to change my scene before, but hopefully I can find my DC United. I have so many scenes now that I lose them all. But anyway, while I look for the symbol for it, can you let our listeners know what happened in the two DC United games this week?
Yeah, so DC United, like Robbie said, 2 games this week. The first one was this past Wednesday. It was against my favorite team in the MLS, the defending MLS champions, NYCFC. DC United, it was a home game for DC. It was at Audi Field. They lost it 2-0 to DC United. 2 goals in the first half for the defending MLS champions in that one. And DC United drops a game at their home field. It's no shame in losing to NYCFC. They won the MLS Cup last year. They're one of the best teams in the whole league. So really no shame against what's really a not as good DC United squad. And then the second game was this past Saturday. Pretty good game. This game was also in DC. It was against Toronto FC. It was a 2-2 draw. DC United scored the first goal. It was Edison Flores scored for them, and then Toronto answered. And then DC United took the lead again early in the second half. Actually, 11 minutes into the second half, they retook the lead 2-1. But then Toronto, right at the death, was able to equalize it and make it a 2-2 draw for DC United. I'm just taking a look at the standings right now in the Eastern Conference, and DC United currently sits in 11th place. Let's see here. They have how many points? They have 14 points on the season, so that's not enough to get it done for the playoffs so far. It's going to be really competitive in the Eastern Conference the rest of the year. We'll see how DC United does, but right now they're kind of down amongst the dead men, as we say, with the Columbus Crew. The Toronto team they just drew against also only has 12 points, and the Chicago Fire, who are in last place, they're right down amongst the dead men with them.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how they do going forward, whether they can make some ground up. They played the Red Bulls on May 28th. That's their next game at the Red Bulls at 7:00 so it's a Saturday, and hopefully they find a way to win that. I know that's the rival team of the team that you like, Brian. Is that right?
Yeah, the Red Bulls. They play in New Jersey, so they play in New York rivalry.
Got it. Yeah. Do they play where the Giants play?
No, they have their own stadium right outside Newark. It's called Red Bull Arena. Yeah, that's the one thing. Like Red Bull fans love to trash talk at NYCFC fans. They have their own stadium, and NYCFC does not.
Oh, interesting. Got it.
NYCFC plays at Yankee Stadium.
Which makes sense why that's the team that you root for.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for helping break down some soccer news with us. I appreciate it. Any final thoughts or anything you want to talk about before we let you go?
No, I'll just add on the soccer talk. It was a really great weekend all around the world in soccer this weekend. Congratulations to Manchester City on winning the Premier League. I had a pretty crazy morning this week it felt like a week, honestly, but I had a pretty crazy morning at work. We at Sirius, we had Jesse Marsh, who's the manager of Leeds United. He's an American. He's an American managing in the English Premier League. We had him on our show. It was really cool. He literally just kept Leeds United from being relegated yesterday. It's just really cool to see an American doing well, coaching in Europe. I love it. So shout out to Jesse Marsh as well. And again, congratulations to Manchester City on winning the Premier League yesterday. And if you like soccer, Champions League final is this Saturday. Liverpool versus Real Madrid should be a great matchup. I'm looking forward to that. I just love soccer. Plenty of it to go around. Other than that, thanks for having me on, guys. I really appreciate it. I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one.
Sounds good. And I just wanted to give one final shout out. I'm going to put the logo.
Oh, yeah. Let's go Rangers. Let's go Rangers. Almost forgot.
Yeah, yeah. That's a good segue because we're going to talk a little bit of hockey in just a second. I did want to put your graphic on the screen as well. Check out Upon Further Review with Brian Brennan. If you go to sportsothp.com and check out the podcast partners, you can check out his previous podcast there, as well as if you go to Team Sports OTHP on sportsothp.com, you can click and see Tim's bio as well as Brian's bio that has all of his Twitter information, podcast information. You can catch a lot more of his New York sports stylings on there for sure. And thank you, Brian, for joining us as always, and look forward to talking to you again soon.
Yeah, no problem, guys. Have a good night.
All right, Brian, take it easy.
All right. So I guess we're going to go into Mystics next. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I just realized. Yeah, we're going to Mystics Talk recap their 2-1 week before we get into the NHL playoffs and all the action going on there. Last week, the Mystics went 2-1. They're currently sitting second place in the East at 5-2, behind, I believe, the Atlanta Dream, who are 4-1. They played. So percentage points puts them above the Mystics. They had a 3-game week, as I mentioned, 2-1. They defeated the Dallas Wings 84-68. They jumped out to a 19-6 lead to start the game and didn't relinquish the lead going forward. Shakira Austin had a career high 20 points and also added 8 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, and 2 blocks. Landon Deladon had 14 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 assists.
I'm happy they were able to rebound because they had just lost to that team when we last left them off, when we ended our Mystics talk last week. So it was good to see them get that rebound because they had come into Washington and beat us, and they hadn't played a whole lot of games, and we went in and we beat them on their home court by a pretty sizable and similar scoring margin.
Yeah, it was definitely good to see them rebound after taking that first loss of the season. And then they followed it up with a 78-73 win over the Atlanta Dream. The game was tied at half. In the third quarter, both of the teams locked it down in defense, where they only combined for 24 points total between both teams. And then going into the fourth, Washington outscored Atlanta 24-15 to earn the win. Shakira Austin, for the second game in a row, was a leading scorer for the Mystics. She had 10 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 steals, and 1 block. And Natasha Cloud had 16 points, 3 rebounds, and 5 assists in the victory. And yesterday, the Mystics took the loss to the Chicago Sky 82-73. That was behind Candace Parker's second career triple-double. She had 16 points, 13 rebounds, and 10 assists against the Mystics. The Mystics were up by 4 at half, but Candace Parker, being who she is, she pretty much took things over in the second half. Lena Deladon had 17 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 steals, and a block. And Ariel Atkins added 20 points with 3 rebounds and 3 assists. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough to defeat the Sky. That's why they took the loss 82-73. That puts them at 5-2 on the season. And I'm scared for you.
I got you covered with the upcoming schedule if you want me to do it.
There you go.
Yeah, Tuesday, May 24th against Atlanta at 7 p.m. And then Saturday, May 28th at Connecticut at 7. So it'll be a rematch against Atlanta. It was a pretty close game on Friday. What are your thoughts on that, Carol?
It's definitely, that them those two teams always play each other's tough. And, it depends on who plays, the better defense, pretty much. Like I said, in the third quarter of the last game they played, they combined for 24 points. I think the Mystics had 10 and they had 14. So it was, depends on who locks down the defense and who can take over. And like the Mystics did in the fourth quarter, going winning 24-15 in the fourth quarter to earn the victory. So I just say mirror the same game they played, and try to do it better.
Yeah, and then the next game is against the Connecticut Sun. So their season, they lost their opener at New York, and then they've won their next 4 games. They've got a tough series, 2 games against Dallas, both in Connecticut. So that's always interesting to play the same team twice in the same location. And then they continue their homestand where Washington comes to town on Saturday. So they've got a rough week. We only have 2 games this week. They've got 3. I'm hoping that them being a little beaten up by Dallas, maybe that gives us a little bit of an edge. But obviously, Connecticut's been playing pretty well after that little stumble to start their season.
Definitely. That's why, WNBA, it's more fundamentals than basketball. It's not always shooting the 3 the best or the team that has the most athletic player. They actually, out there playing fundamental basketball, pick and roll screens, and calling plays, not just trying to be athletic and pulling up threes at half court just to see what happens. So the season's underway. Teams are playing well. The Mystics starting out well, and see what they can do going down.
I like this team. They're exciting. They started off really well. They're doing well. I'm excited because not enough people covered this team, over the years. We've covered them in the year where they've made it to the finals and just barely, got, knocked off. And then that redemption year where they were able to come back and they were able to win it all. And I'm happy that we cover women's basketball and other women's sports as well. We've covered over the last 6 seasons, not to toot our own horn, but just so few podcasts and so few shows, on the airwaves, especially in the DC area, cover the Mystics at all. Some of them claim to, and they just don't even really do it. But I've always really liked the Mystics. We're actually considered press for them. We haven't been able to get down there. We've just both been so busy. But I would love at some point to rekindle that relationship and go down and interview players. And, it was really cool that we've been able to be pressed for them in the past. And it's an interesting sport. I really like women's basketball. I know it might not be the most popular thing in the DC area, but I'm happy that we have a team. And I would love to check out that new arena.
Yeah, I'll think about revisiting that because as you said, we were covering the team all season, and when they made the championship, and we tried to get our credentials down there, we got shut out by ESPN and all the big wigs that weren't following this team throughout. So I still feel a certain way about that we couldn't get into one game, even though we had been covering the team. And me and the press, one of the press agents that worked for the team, had a little miscommunication, so I don't know if that might have been something.
I think that was it. I think that we just hadn't used our press certificates within a certain amount of time. But it's a technicality. It just means that we just need to get to more regular season games and try to find a way. It's a bummer that we didn't get to cover that game for sure. But I'm sure that we could if we wanted to continue to cover them, and if we get the time to surely be able to get into the playoffs this time.
Definitely.
All right. Well, I'm happy we did get to cover them. Let's talk a little bit about this hockey playoffs as well. Figuring out my next graphic. There it is. I just put a brand new graphic up. Unfortunately, it doesn't have our team in it, Carol, but it's been still some great hockey. We were having some breaking info during our NBA segment. Tampa Bay ended up sweeping Florida in that series, which surprised us, I think. At least it surprised me because I thought Florida was better than the Florida team last year. But Tampa Bay has shown, having this experience and being, back-to-back champions, even if they've had long series, you and I talked about maybe there'd be some fatigue here just because they've had a bunch of runs back-to-back. But I didn't see that in this series. And they put together a strong 1-0 playoff, grinded out Game 4 victory. I mean, they were able to get an empty netter in there, but it was really a 1-0 game that they had to grind out. What were some of your thoughts on this series?
I mean, honestly, the Capitals gave them the blueprint. Clog up the neutral zone, don't let them get speed going through the middle, and, bide your time, play solid defense, and score when they give you the opportunity.
Isn't that interesting that you say that? I hadn't really thought about that, Carol, but that's so true that we gave them everything they needed to know, and they had the players that were healthy enough to execute. And it's that's frustrating for sure, because I know that we could have beaten this Tampa Bay team if we were healthy. I think we could have at least.
Yeah, and that's the other frustrating thing that now Tampa Bay is another step closer to trying to freaking three-peat. You know, I felt like our squad could have repeated if they're, I'm not going to get into the Barry Trotz situation. That's another 20 minutes right there.
For sure.
Yeah, it's, they're on their three-peat. Not that I'm a hater, but,
No, I'm with you. I mean, Tampa Bay was a division rival for a very long time. I don't just forget that because we're not in their division anymore. I've never really liked Tampa Bay. I'm so happy on that run to our cup that we went through them and we're able to vanquish that foe too. I mean, we always talk about that Pittsburgh series, but that Tampa Bay series gives me a lot of, it's a huge moment. I mean, game 6 and 7, Holtby coming out and Burakovsky even is showing up in those games, so like, it's just a really important, you have to win the conference final to get to the finals. So, and that team, that Tampa Bay team was the favorite team going to win it all that year. Mm-hmm. People forget that, so we actually probably vanquished the hardest team in that round, arguably, than Vegas. Vegas actually, in some ways, looking back, seemed easy in comparison to that Tampa Bay series.
It shouldn't even have been. It should have been a sweep if it wasn't for that cross check by Ryan Reeves in game 1.
Right. It's so rare to see a sweep in the Stanley Cup. We've seen it, but literally in person. But it's rare. But I'm happy, gentlemen sweep, whatever. We got it done. But that is a good team, and they're obviously moving on. This St. Louis Blues game right now, it's 1-0 Blues over Colorado. Colorado's up only 2-1 in this series. We kind of thought that Colorado could just steamroll over the Blues. Right now, Colorado's out shooting St. Louis 12-3, but St. Louis does have the one on the board that matters the most. Carol, what are your thoughts on this series?
Well, like I said, I picked Nashville to upset Colorado, and they swept them. But I just feel like the veteran team that plays solid defense can slow this team down because they don't really have a lot of playoff experience. And they're generally young. So, you can get physical with them. I don't mean fighting. I mean, get the forecheck going, hit them against the boards. But then you get folks start looking over their shoulders when they're making these passes and getting close to the boards, and they make mistakes. We saw that in the Capital Series, unfortunately. They were able to capitalize on the mistake that they made. That Florida made, but Florida was able to capitalize on the mistakes that they made. So St. Louis is a quality team. They have a good foundation. They're solid defensively, and their goaltending is above average. I won't say stellar, but it's above average. So I think they can push Colorado out. Beat them, I don't know, because I haven't been really watching the series. It's those who wants the Cowboys went out. I went in the Nationals mode and pretty much just flip and check the scores with the hockey. But it's interesting to see how things are folding out. And I don't know. I'm still a little salty about the Cats being out there.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I know this is going to be a tough segment for us, still only a couple weeks removed, but I still have been enjoying the playoffs. I do want to talk about the 2 other series real quickly. That will resume tomorrow, Tuesday, May 24th, if you're not listening live. Hurricanes Rangers will be the first one up, and the Rangers were able to come back and actually win a game against Carolina. Carolina's looked pretty good in the first 2 games, holding New York to 1 goal and 0 goals in the first 2 games in Carolina. They were able to erupt for 3 goals in this last game. Zibanejad got the first goal in the first. Kreider got the second. Nito Niederreiter got a goal back for Carolina. It looked like it might be a close third period, and it was. And the Rangers were able to get an empty net at the end to make it 3-1, but really a 2-1, very close game. Again, that series resumes tomorrow or Tuesday, May 24th at 7 p.m. Carol, what are your thoughts on this series?
I saw that New York was able to come back. I know Brian is going to like, but I'm still rooting for Carolina because I think they have the the best shot at beating Tampa Bay. I'm sorry, I don't want to see Tampa Bay 3-3. I'm sorry.
That's an interesting reason to root for Carolina because I do think in a lot of ways Carolina does match up potentially better with Tampa Bay. I think Tampa Bay beats either of them at this point, just with what I just saw in this series. But it'd be interesting to see if one series goes long and the other is a sweep. Sometimes momentum can change. We've seen that in hockey. If they have a week off from now until the next game, if it goes 7, it could potentially be a little bit different. I don't know. I hope it goes long. I've really enjoyed this series. I'm kind of pulling for the Rangers. I don't know. It's tough. I go back and forth on this one, Carol. I'm rooting for the Rangers because I want to thank them for beating Pittsburgh. That goes a long way in my book. But I do have friends that really like that Carolina team. And I do see what you're saying. I think Carolina does have a legitimate chance against the Tampa Bay, but maybe even New York does too if it goes long and, they caught Tampa Bay napping early. I don't know. It's going to be a tough series either way.
Honestly, I have some selfish reasons because I have some connects in Carolina, and if I possibly get a ticket to the Stanley Cup Finals, then I'm gonna try to get down to North Carolina. So
nice. You would go to that. Would be awesome to go to a cup that's even if it wasn't ours.
And Robbie isn't lucky enough to go to a Stanley Cup final game like
yes, it's true. Mine was a loss though. We got swept, and a cup got handed to another team. But so it's not all glorious all the time. That would be interesting to watch. It'd be interesting to see a cup get given to a different team though, and to go to a game either way. I don't know how I'd feel about watching Carolina hoist a cup, but
I would.
Yeah,
I wouldn't mind that. I'd mind it more if it was Tampa Bay.
Right, that's true. I wouldn't even go to that, but yeah, that's an interesting thought. But all right, we got one series left. It's actually probably the series I might care the most about. It's a really that battle for Alberta is awesome. The Flames versus the Oilers. It's everything we thought it would be and more. That I just want to break down this series a little bit. That first game was 9-6, Carol. It started off 3-0 for Calgary in the first 6 minutes, and they pulled their goalie. And I was like, well, this game's over. And then at one point it got to 6-2, Carol. I was like, well, this game's even more over. And then they came back and tied the game at 6. And then it all turned again. And just like they started the game, they scored another 3 goals in a row and ended up winning a game of field goals 9-6. Carol, that's a crazy, crazy score. And I know that we thought there'd be offensive firepower in the series, but what are your thoughts with that being a game 1 of a series?
Yeah, 15 goals in one game is crazy. I wasn't watching
a playoff game, like maybe in the regular season. But
I mean, we both know both of these teams' defense isn't really in their vocabulary, so we knew it would be a high score because you got Edmonton with McDavid.
Connor McDavid, yeah. Draisaitl, yeah,
100 points. Then you got Calgary with Gaudreau and his skill set and Kachuk. You knew it because it's young. It's these guys are young. These guys are fast. They're talented. They're skilled.
Kachuk, by the way, had a hat trick in that game.
Yeah, I think he had 2 in the playoffs. I think that's his second one in the playoffs. So, I mean, these guys are young. They're not playing old school hockey. They're playing their brand of hockey, and they're changing the game. Now, that's going to be the key going into the next round. Whoever comes out of this round, is that style going to be able to adapt to their next opponent? Because they match up well because the way they play. And I think this series might go 7. But is it going to translate whichever team gets to the conference finals? Is this style going to be able to adapt to whichever team that's going to try to stop them from doing that? That's going to be the interesting.
Especially playing against a Colorado, right? Which is probably.
Colorado, I see it St. Louis, that'd be more of a test. If it's Colorado, it's going to be similar to this Calgary series, and then it's going to be up to whoever comes out the East to slow that down. And I hate to say it, but Tampa Bay has that ability to do it also, along with Carolina. So I think whoever comes in, it depends on who comes. If St. Louis comes out of the West, I give it a 65-45. If one of these young teams come out of the West against a Carolina or Tampa Bay, a veteran team that knows how to win and knows how to slow teams down and knows how to lock teams down, I think it's going to be like the Vegas Cap series 4-1.
Yeah. So the series did tighten up a little bit. Game 2, Edmonton was able to come back and win that 5-3. That was a really close game. Calgary scored the first 2 goals again. I thought wasn't going well. Oilers got one back. Then Calgary goes up 3-1, but McDavid scores, and the Oilers get another one to tie it 3-3. And then in the third, they get 2 more goals and win that game 5-3. So it's a good come from behind victory for the Oilers. There was only 8 goals in that game. In the next game, 5 goals scored. This time, 4 by the Oilers, which they scored all their goals in the second period, and Calgary scored their 1 goal in the third period. Evander Kane, we talked about him a lot in the past, whether or not, he's a head case. Is he worth it? He scored a natural hat trick in this game, Carol, which is one of the hardest things to do in hockey. People don't know what a natural hat trick is. It's when you score 3 goals in a row on the board with no other players scoring between them. It's one of the most difficult things to do in hockey. And he scored at 6:58, 7:51, and 12:58. So he did it in like 6 minutes. Anyway, and the game goes from 1-0 to 4-0, and obviously changes.
On in that 6 minutes, he went to a Michael Jordan moment or something.
Yeah, but it's just an impressive feat in any sport. We talk about triple doubles and stuff like that. We should recognize that, even though he's not my favorite player, and I didn't want him on the team just because I thought he was going to be a head case. But man, in retrospect, if we could have put him in when Tom Wilson is injured, if we could have found a way to fit him in the cap space, it could have definitely been a difference.
I mean, we can all, at the point in time and with the players they have on this team, that type of player wouldn't have been a good thing for the locker room. So if they would have reached the playoffs with him on the team, because he's a certain personality and he has certain issues on and off the ice. So that's a lot to take on. And he's fine. When he first got with them, he wasn't really, clicking.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a bust early on in that trade. Yeah.
So, I mean, it takes time. And like we talked about in the net segment when they acquired Gerardo Parr, he came out and said they wanted to make the playoffs, and they were, 12 games under 500. I thought it was crazy, but they turned around and did it. So they made a move for Randy Kane. Everybody said, well, why would you bring a player like that into your young locker room, like poison the guys and lose your locker room, boom, boom, boom. But then he turns around and rewards them for their loyalty and taking them and say that he would be a better piece for this team. And there he goes. I mean, he's always been a talented player. He just has issues. And that's with most athletes, entertainers, artists, whatever. When you're talented, you have some demons that, make you that talented person. And sometimes you don't know how to deal with the situations you're in, and stuff happens. Luckily, things get forgiven, or you get suspended and get a second chance, which he's received. And he hasn't really been in any trouble since he's been up there. And he's rewarded them with, a natural hat trick to help them in the series to get a step closer to the Stanley Cup final. So their faith in him is paying off in the long run. And it's a good thing to see, somebody getting a second chance. It's one of the few things we see in this
I'm
world.
surprised. It's like his 5th chance. So like it's I didn't
messing up my narrative. I was trying to give a nice touching moment. I had the violins.
I know. I just hated him so much. But the problem is he now plays for a team I really like. So you have to understand the internal conflict that I have. It was like, well, I didn't want him for the Caps, but I was like, oh, he's going to the Oilers. Hopefully he doesn't screw that up, and I'm happy for them. I mean, I have a good friend, Adrian, who's a diehard Oilers fan. When I just started to follow hockey, he was like, these are my 2 teams. I love the Capitals. I love the Oilers. I was like, I'll root for the Oilers with you. I mean, I didn't really have a West Coast team, right? So, it's just kind of good to see the Oilers have a chance. Obviously, the Calgary are their biggest rivals. So I'm hoping for big things. So the next game is Tuesday at 9:30, and then Thursday at 9:30, and then Saturday and Monday's games would be to be determined. I kind of hope this game goes 7 so we could talk about it live on air. I know that we haven't decided whether we're going to do a Memorial Day show or not. It might be a day of decision depending on how things are going in our lives.
I'm letting you know now I'm working Sunday and Monday. So
okay. All right. So then we
might be taking off next week because I'm going to be exhausted.
Yes, for sure. So I think we almost can call it now. We'll say that we're not going to do a show, but if something big happens, we'll let people know. Yeah, we could do a surprise show.
Somebody do a pop-up show later on in the week, but as of right now, Sports on the Hill podcast will be taking off Memorial Day next Monday.
That sounds like a good plan. Yeah, because I was going to tell the guys that they should have off too. So let's just make that the plan, and we could always recap, who makes it to the different finals the following week, and do the same thing with the NBA. And the finals will already be in progress, but we'll be able to talk about that as well. Probably maybe even have a live finals game that night. So awesome. I've really enjoyed it. My dad just joined chat. He said Tampa Bay knows how to win, which is an important thing, which I think, it's very true. Especially when they showed it here against a very good Florida team.
Be honest, one of the main reasons I'm rooting against Tampa Bay, because folks always compare Stamkos to Ovechkin with the goal scoring ability. And now if he gets 3 rings as opposed to Ovi's 1, now we're going to hear that conversation just like we hear the Crosby versus Ovechkin. That's kind of the reason why one of them.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. I'll probably root for whoever comes out of the other side of the Eastern bracket for that reason as well. I was kind of rooting for Florida in this series, just because I don't know.
Couldn't do it.
You can't root for Florida,
because the Capitals should have beat them. I'm sorry. I agree with Nick Baxter. They gave this series to Florida.
I agree, but once you do it, my dad has always told me you want that team to go far.
No.
Okay, well, they got swept. So
as an ex-athlete, the team that beat me, I want them to get trashed the next week. So they
did. They got trashed. They got swept. They didn't win another game.
Exactly.
So there you go. There you go, Carol. So Carol, yeah, sounds good.
Only catch is this Tampa Bay that swept it. See, I can't win for losing, Rob.
I know. The Battle of Florida was a tough one for sure. So I'll definitely root for
again, man. Them damn hockey guys, they still mess with me even with the Capitals out, man.
I know. So we'll root for New York or Carolina, whoever comes out of that side of that bracket. We still think Carolina is going to beat New York in that series.
Yeah, I'm going with it. I'm going with it. I'm confident with Carolina. Brenda Moore is a hell of a
You think it'll go far in the series? I don't think we actually broke down the upcoming games for that one. But do you think it'll be close, or do you think Carolina's
2-1 now, right?
Yeah, 2-1. Tuesday's game 4, 7. Thursday's game is at 7, and then Saturday's to be determined, and that could also be on next Monday. A live game 7.
I don't know, because I done made bold predictions this hockey season and they haven't come true. So I don't want to say they're going to win it in 5 because that's what I want them to do. So because the Raiders are an interesting team. I wasn't expecting them to be this early with the acquisitions they made in the offseason. I mean, I know they got Panarin. And
that goalie is good.
Yeah, that's what shocked me against in their first series when
he doesn't win the Vezina Trophy this year, I'm going to be pissed. I was like that.
The fact that they're in the next round says a lot after he got pulled in the first 2 out of 3 games of the series that they had put 4 goals in 1 period. So he's bounced back. He's been steady all season. I think would depend on how far. If they go down at 5. I don't know, but if they stretch it out to 7 and Carolina wins, I think he definitely is going to end up winning the Vezina because he's definitely been the difference maker for that team.
Is it? I thought it's not even supposed to take consideration of. I think it was a regular season.
Well, I think it is. Well, you're right. I think it is mostly regular season. I mean, just off his regular season, I feel like he deserved because I think he won the most percentage of the wins for his team, and he's a big dude. He's athletic. I think he was even maybe first, second in shutouts in the league. So, I mean, I just hate that he's not on our team.
Yeah. My dad's saying that we have family that like the Rangers, and Zach's little cousin was actually on the billboard at MSG during the win. Just happened because they have season tickets. So that's kind of cool.
I can't root for the Rangers if Ryan Reeves is on the squad. See,
I know. I feel the same way.
But with him being on the team, And you know,
I know.
I love Mika Zibanejad. I don't know why I love his name like that. And
He's a hell of a player. I really like him as well.
I love his name. He's one of
and the Breadman's a pretty cool player too. I like Panarin. I think he's a pretty sick player. But
yeah, I mean, you know, even though Tom Wilson ragdolled him.
I know. There's a history there.
I still had that video of
I'm gonna root for them for Brian and my cousin Brian, ironically, for two Brians. But I don't know. I want that series to go 7 because I have friends that like both of them, and then I'll decide next Monday when I watch that game instead of doing a live show.
I do like their coach. I like Brendan Moore when he was a player, and he's a hell of a coach.
Really? I feel like he's kind of an asshole at times. I feel like he looks like a Bond villain.
Well, I am kind of an asshole sometimes. So
relate to the Bond villain.
Yeah. And he, ever since he's taken over, he's had that team ready to play no matter what. So I mean, you got to take your hat off to a player that's been able to transition that into being a quality coach and to get him, you know, get that team into contention for a Stanley Cup since he's been there. So it's hard for a player to make that transition into coaching. You were speaking about, you know, the Dallas Mavericks with Jason Kidd and the success that he's had going from a player to a coach. But it's hard for that to happen, especially in hockey. And the fact that he's been able to do that is something you got to take your hat off to.
For sure. Yeah, I don't know. I want that series to go long. I want all the series to go long. I love playoff hockey, even if the Caps aren't in it. It takes a little of the stress off of it, for sure. And there's still some really good.
But it doesn't have the same. See,
I know. I don't have the same rooting interest.
Hockey. I like being engaged and, you know.
I don't know. I was watching on the car trip down some of that hockey just on my phone because I love that it's on ESPN Plus, and I'm like, this is awesome, and I can like stream
that anxiety, man. It isn't the same without thinking the next goal could be the end of the
season. Yeah, I'm with you. It's not the same. I will 100% agree with you, but I still enjoy it. Talk about blowouts though. I'm watching the Boston game, and they're just absolutely.
I put the hockey game on. I turned it. It wasn't no point.
I have both on, but it's not a close game right now.
I mean, it was one play when I saw with Boston where it was a high pick and roll. They was at the 3-point line. The guy at the free throw line did a spin away from the two players, caught the ball, and did a reverse layup over 3 players. I was like, that's over. They're like, this game. When one player can disabuse the whole team on one play, you might as well go ahead and chalk it up and start drawing up. Okay, tomorrow we're going to practice.
Right.
Yeah, this game.
Yeah, it was 88-57 when I last checked the score in the fourth quarter. So that's a hell of a 30-point victory or incoming right there for them. So it's going to be fun. I'm excited. So we'll take next week off, and we'll come back and we'll talk about some different finals matchups, whether it's conference finals in hockey or the actual finals in the NBA. I think should have started by then. And
breaking news like the Commanders trade for Tom Brady or something. They'll be most likely taken off next week.
Yeah, for sure. And we can always have the breaking news, facebook.com/SportsOTHP. We always put it all there. You can find us on all of our social medias. Go to sportsothp.com, click the socials button. You'll get all of our social media links for both Carol's personal ones, my personal ones, also all the show page stuff. I want to give a shout out before we get off air for my friend Josh Turk. He made it to the finals of a Twitch voting thing. I'm going to talk about it a little bit more in my after podcast recap that we do right after the show on our Twitch channel. I know that Carol does videos live of different music videos after his show on his end. But it's been fun, Carol, doing episode 272 with you, which kind of blows my mind that we've done this many weeks. We've covered a lot of sports in our life, but it's been a lot of fun. It's been an interesting week for sure. I thank you for everyone for tuning in on Facebook, on Twitch, on Carol's YouTube, and all of his channels as well. Carol, any final thoughts before we sign off from the podcast, and then I'll do my post show before I rate on my end.
As always, appreciate you guys tuning in, checking us out. You know, you could be doing anything else tonight, but I appreciate the views on my YouTube channel. I've been growing up to 165 subscribers. It isn't too bad since I've only been using it for like 3 years. But make sure you go check it out, subscribe for all the highlight videos, live streams at the Bar Radio, Sports on the Hill podcast, and stay tuned for a lot of other things that we're getting into. I always spoke about True Radio After Dark. It's coming. It's coming. So stay on the lookout for us. We got some things working, but we appreciate the support. Appreciate my followers, the folks that check out everything that we're doing. Make sure you come down if you're in the market for a new or used vehicle. Come on down to 2450 Crane Highway in Waldorf, Maryland, Waldorf, Honda. That's what I do as my day job, and I moonlight as a radio host. Yeah, that's what I do. But come on down if you're looking for a new, used, pre-owned, certified, new credit, no credit, bad credit. Give me an opportunity to earn your business because that's what I do. I'm a car sales professional. Make sure you go check out the website, sportsothp.com, for all the highlight videos, live streams, articles. I'm trying to get back into blogging, but it's just not enough time today.
I know. I want to do so many projects. Oh, I wanted to give one quick little shout out before we got out of here. Also, if I know that Carol's now on Twitch, you can catch him CP3_SportsOTHP. I just did a shout out on my Twitch as well, so I'm happy that he's joined us. One cool thing is now there's artist attribution. I want to thank all the different channels where I've designed emotes for over the last couple of years for adding my information to it and giving me an artist badge and showcasing that I'm an artist across Twitch. And if people ever want me to design emotes for them, they can always direct message me. And I've done it animated ones and static ones for tons of different channels. I've even talked about it. I have a podcast segment, Carol, now monthly on a show about how I make these emotes, which is kind of cool. It's a little art corner that I do once a month on Island Vibing Presents. But it's kind of cool that Twitch is showcasing artists, musicians. We've been able to do our podcast on here. So shout out to them for creating a platform that's inclusive of all people and really trying to push art and artists. And I think that as somebody who's an art teacher and who has designed a lot of art on this platform for a lot of different content creators, I'm really excited about that. All came out this week. And I just wanted to give a little shout out to one of the platforms that we're on.
No doubt, know that I'm still figuring it out. So yeah, all of that stuff you just talking about, I have no idea what you're talking about. I'll figure it out sooner or later when we get some time to talk.
We could talk offline for sure.
Yeah, I've just got too much going on. Like I told you, I'm running 13 pages, 2 websites, 2 channels for my phone. Now I got a Twitch channel and have no idea what the hell Twitch is. But we're going to figure it out. We're going to get there one day. I'm working on some stuff. I got some software glitches with some new stuff I uploaded. So this, yeah, it's. I'm just glad everything is running good. I didn't have nothing shut down over there.
Nice, we had a good podcast then.
Yeah, it's a good day. So I'm gonna get off before anything crazy.
For sure.
Always, I want to play some independent music videos on my feed. Bobby's gonna do his Twitch stuff and rave stuff and all of the other fun stuff that he does over there. I don't know what it is, but I'll figure it out one day. And make sure you check us out. We're taking off next week unless some breaking, earth-shattering news comes on. One of us will go live with it. And make sure you check out At the Bar Radio Sunday nights, sit around 6 o'clock. Might be on the show this weekend. I'm not sure. Got some scheduling conflicts. But if you see it pop up on notifications, you know we're going live. So as always, appreciate you checking us out on your Monday night. DC Sports Weather Politics. It's not just a catchphrase. It's not just a motto, it's what we do. CP3 and RobbieG, we out. Catch you next time.
Recording stopped.
All right. Well, I am out live on all the other platforms. Thank you for everyone for tuning in for all of those things. We're going to go Davies eating a sandwich. But I did want to give one last shout out to Josh Turk for making the finals of a really cool event. If people don't know, the Fairly Live show is doing this thing like Twitch Vision. And it was actually on the front page of Twitch today. It's called the Music Vision 2022 Song Contest, where different song creators all go against each other to win prizes. I'm going to give a quick little shout out to the Fairly Live show as well. Real fast. Let me just get back over to the window that I was on, and so let's see if that works. All right, and so definitely go check that out. I believe the finals is on Friday, and Josh is going to be in that. So we'll shout out to there we go. So definitely go follow Josh as well. And hopefully that he wins. He's a good friend of mine. He's been on this show before, both the Sports on the Hill podcast. I've also interviewed him. You can catch all those old episodes, youtube.com/RobbieGross. And Streamer Songs is part of that. So those are all the things I want to talk about. We're going to raid Davey. I want to create a happy birthday, Davey. First of all, who is, if I can get his thing in here real quickly, so people know who he is. Davey Eating a Sandwich has also been on this show. Oh, I think I have a Davey command. Hold on. I do. Awesome. He's a sandwich guy who's from Cali. He's been on the show before. It's his birthday, so we're gonna do happy birthday, Davey raid. And we're just going to do it that way. And everyone should just copy that if they can, and if they can join us on the raid. And yeah, we're going to raid Davey's Eating a Sandwich. I hope people can join us on that raid. And all right, so happy birthday, Davey raid. And you can add whatever emotes you want to it. I'm just going to add some simple ones really quickly. Sports, Charizard, and we'll do it this way. So grab that call right there if you want, or you can have whatever emails you want to. Appreciate everyone for tuning in, and we'll talk to you all next week. Have a good one. Or not next week, sorry, in 2 weeks. We're taking next week off for the holiday, and we'll be back. But I appreciate all of you. We'll talk to you soon.